Thank you.
Hi, thank you for joining me this afternoon. My name is Nicole Wargo. I am a fellow for Clark County in the Department of Environment and Sustainability. And today I'll be talking about electric vehicles. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. So just a quick overview of what we'll be talking about. First, we'll cover all in Clark County and other transportation initiatives that we have going on. We'll do some electric vehicle basics, and we'll talk about EV charging etiquette. So first, I want to talk a little bit about what Clark County is doing for sustainable transportation. All in Clark County is a sustainability initiative with implementable actions. And the main two goals are to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 100% in 2050 and provide a resilient, equitable future for the region. This is, it consists mostly of these four major reports. The first is our county operations sustainability plan. Then we have a greenhouse gas inventory. There's a climate vulnerability assessment. And we have a community sustainability plan that will be coming out early next year. This is just a timeline of those reports that I had mentioned. So in 2019, the Board of County Commissioners directed the Department of Environment and Sustainability to create a sustainability and climate action plan. We started first with our county operations so that we could, get our house in order and lead by example for the rest of the community on sustainability. So we first did an audit and looked at our operations and created a sustainability plan from that. After we did a regional greenhouse gas inventory for the entire community, as well as a climate vulnerability assessment. And then based off that inventory and assessment, that helped guide our community sustainability action plan. So this comes from our county operations plan. It's the greenhouse gas emissions that we produce as an organization. And as you can see, employee commuting and our vehicle fleet make up 1/3 of our greenhouse gases. Our community operations plan targets 5 key areas from water to buildings. And one of those actions is sustainable transportation. This comes from our plan, and so there are several goals for sustainable transportation, mostly involving reducing our emissions and having alternative commuting for our staff. Within those goals, we have many actions to achieve those goals, and these are just 2 actions of many under the sustainable transportation section. The first is to convert our fleet to low and zero emission vehicles. And the second is to install electric vehicle charging infrastructure for staff vehicles. After the county operations plan, we did a greenhouse gas inventory. And that is based on 2019 data because we wanted to do before COVID when it was still business as usual. And if you see in the orange, that's all of our transportation emissions, and they make up the second largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the county. And at the bottom here, gasoline vehicles make up almost 20% of our entire greenhouse gas emissions. So with that inventory and our climate vulnerability assessment, we use that to guide our community plan, which again will be coming out soon. But this one has 6 focus areas, including connected and equitable mobility. For connected and equitable mobility, we're looking at a couple different goals, but this one in particular, goal number 2, is to minimize energy use and eliminate fossil fuels. And that's focused a lot on electric vehicles. These again are just 2 actions here. Of several, but the first is to provide incentives for low-income drivers who want to get an electric vehicle. And the second is for incentives on electric vehicle charging infrastructure for residential and commercial locations. There are some other initiatives we have going on for sustainable transportation as well. The first is the Transportation Electrification Working Group. This is a group of stakeholders from around our community that help guide transportation electrification planning and policy. This year, they focused on light duty vehicles, and they are in the middle of creating an ordinance on charging infrastructure and parking lots. Next year, they're going to look more at medium and heavy duty vehicles. And then we also have the Clean Cities Coalition. This is actually the project I'm working on for my fellowship. And we are trying to earn a designation from the Department of Energy into this national coalition. We are focused a lot on education and outreach of alternative fuels and vehicles. So that's just a quick breakdown on sustainable transportation at the county. Next, I want to talk a little bit about electric vehicle basics. So there are 3 types of electric vehicles when you're out shopping for one. The first would be hybrid electric vehicles. These have an electric motor that assists a gas-powered engine to increase fuel efficiency. These get better gas mileage than a standard gasoline vehicle. As you can see, the average is 40 to 50 combined miles per gallon. And this only has a gasoline tank. There's no electric charging port in these vehicles. And a classic example of this would be the Toyota Prius. Next are plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. They're similar to the standard hybrid, but they have a larger battery and electric motor. These will run on electricity first, and then, excuse me, and then move to the gasoline afterwards. So on average, you would get 20 to 40 miles, depending on the vehicle, of range on electricity, and then it would go to gasoline. So for many people, that's enough to get you on your commute to and from work without ever having to use a drop of gasoline. These cars are interesting because they have both a gasoline tank and an electricity port. You can choose if you want to charge the car or not. However, you always have to have gasoline in these vehicles. And then finally are the battery electric vehicles. And this is what I'll be referring to throughout the rest of this presentation. These are powered only by electricity. There's no gasoline involved for these cars. They have only an electricity port. And one of the newest examples of these vehicles is the Subaru Solterra, which just came out this fall. For your battery electric and plug-in hybrid, you would need a charger. The nice thing about these is that there's level 1 charging, and that's just a standard 120 volt outlet. So when you purchase your car, you'll be given a charger just like you are with your phone, and you could go home and plug it into the wall. However, the charge time isn't the best for level 1 charging. You get about 2 to 5 miles of range per hour of charging. For a lot of people, that's enough to get you to and from work if you charge your vehicle overnight. However, you may want to consider purchasing a level 2 charger. Level 2 chargers are around 220 volts on average, and this is the same type of outlet that your clothes dryer uses. You'll find level 2 chargers at public charging stations, and you could also have them installed at your home through a certified electrician. These get much better charge time than level 1. You'll get 10 to 20 miles of range per hour of charging with these. And then finally are the DC fast chargers. These are the best chargers by far. As you can see, you get 60 to 80 miles of range per 20 minutes. However, these are only available as a public charger. So these are really important when you're taking a road trip. This is the type of charger you'll want to be on the lookout for so that you can charge your car more quickly and get back on the road. So, why are we talking about electric? Why should you consider electric? These are just a few of the headlines that I found through a quick Google search on how manufacturers are planning to launch EVs at their companies. And every manufacturer has a plan to be fully electric, some before others, but they all have a plan for this. So the market is definitely deciding that this is the future. There's going to be a lot more vehicles at the car dealerships, and you'll get to have more opportunities to buy electric vehicles. But more importantly, You'll want to switch to electric because you'll have fewer greenhouse gas emissions with this car. That's even when taking the entire life cycle into account. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. Also, you'll produce less pollution with these vehicles. And not only that, the pollution occurs outside of our community at the energy plant. And what I mean by that is, imagine that it's a nice spring day and you're sitting in your vehicle and you have your windows down and you're at a red light. Typically, you know, in that situation, you're breathing in tailpipe pollution. But if everyone around you had electric vehicles, you won't be breathing in those fumes, and it's a lot healthier for our community. The energy grid is always improving. What I mean by that is NV Energy is already working towards purchasing renewable energy and installing renewable energy. They have a goal of 50% renewables by 2030. So every year, your electric vehicle is only getting cleaner because it's burning cleaner energy. You'll also save on energy costs. Charging an EV is a lot more affordable than filling the gas tank of a standard vehicle. And there are plenty of incentives for purchasing an electric vehicle, and I'll cover those two in a minute. First, I just want to discuss greenhouse gas emissions. This study was done by the Union of Concerned Scientists. And what they did was they looked at the entire process for manufacturing both gasoline cars and trucks and electric cars and trucks. This took even battery manufacturing into consideration. So this is, you know, from the start of making the car through the end of the use from the consumer. And as you can see on the left, for gasoline cars and electric cars, there's a 52% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And on the right for trucks, it's a 50% reduction. So you're doing a lot better for the planet by having one of these cars. Also, you're going to save money on energy. This is just a simple calculation that you can use to estimate how much you will spend on your fuel. So assume that you drive 9,000 miles per year. With a standard gas vehicle, you get 25 miles per gallon on average. Right now, today, according to AAA, the cost for gasoline in Clark County is on average $3.96. If you had an electric vehicle, on average, they get 3 miles per kilowatt hour for electricity. And the cost for that from NV Energy is just over 12 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you look at gas vehicles, that 9,000 miles divided by 25 miles per gallon times the nearly $4 in gasoline, you're going to be spending over $1,400 annually on fuel. And again, that can change. As you know, gasoline was nearly $6 a gallon a lot of places. So this cost can go up quite a bit depending on the time of the year. But on average, we'll save $1,400. That price per mile is almost 16 cents per mile. However, for electricity, if you're driving the same 9,000 miles, that divided by 3 miles per kilowatt hour times the cost of kilowatt hour at over 12 cents, your energy cost would be $375. And if you break that down per mile, it's just over 4 cents per mile. So the difference between this gasoline and electric example, you would be saving over $1,000 per year on energy costs. Plus, there are no oil changes and you won't have smog checks. So you'd be saving even more there. Some other incentives to consider for your electric vehicle. First, there is the Clean Vehicle Tax Credit. This is a federal incentive that provides up to $7,500 for a new vehicle and $4,000 for a used. There are some manufacturing requirements, however, on where where the battery needs to be made and some other items, but you can cover this either with the car dealership, your accountant, or the Department of Energy has on their website which cars qualify for these incentives. And this credit was just extended, so it's running now through 2032. There's also NV Energy's time of use rate. And what that means is you would pay a discounted rate if you charge your vehicle during off-peak hours. So as we mentioned in the previous slide, it's just over 12 cents per kilowatt hour for standard flat use rate. But if you did the time of use rate, it would be 7 cents for the off-peak hours. This actually applies to all the electricity you use at your home. So everything would be more affordable if you used it during the off-peak times. And what's nice about this incentive is that after a year, you can compare the price you paid for time of use rate versus what you would have paid if you had kept the standard flat use rate. And if you didn't save any money, NV Energy will credit you back and you can switch back to the flat use rate. For chargers, NV Energy has the Transportation Electrification Plan. They will cover 75% of approved cost or 100% if you're income qualified, up to almost $13,000. They will also cover operations and maintenance with an incentive of up to $200 a year for 5 years. And to give you an idea, installing a charger in your home can vary in price depending on if you just need an outlet installed or if you need an electric board and more infrastructure. So on average, it costs between $400 to $2,000 depending on your circumstances, and that's something you can discuss with an electrician. This program was very popular for 2022 and is fully subscribed, but they are trying to bring it back for 2023, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. And then finally, there's the alternative fuel refueling property tax credit. This is a federal incentive and it will cover 30% of the cost of hardware and installation of your EV charger up to $1,000. So a lot of people are worried that if they buy an EV, it won't have enough range to get them to work and run their errands or take a road trip. So I wanted to cover range anxiety for a minute. The EPA estimates that ranges on electric vehicles can be anywhere from 100 miles to 520 miles. However, the average range for 2021 models is 234 miles. So that is plenty to get you to and from work and run your errands. And you could take a road trip without needing to make a lot of stops along the way. In 2022 models, there are 14 with a range of over 300 miles. So lots of good options out there. And you can also plan your trip using Google Maps, or this is a site called PlugShare that I used. And what this map is here is driving into Southern California. This is the stretch of 15 that's all desert and there's not a lot to see, but as you can tell, there's plenty of chargers along the way if you need to make a stop and charge your car. This is the drive north to Reno. There's chargers in Beatty, in Goldfield, Tonopah, Hawthorne, up into Reno. If you look to the west, there's even Kings Canyon and Yosemite, chargers there for you. This is Utah, and they're doing a really great job of putting in electric chargers for vehicles. So you have plenty of options if you want to take a trip to Zion or Bryce Canyon or up north into Salt Lake City. And finally, this is Arizona. Here's Kingman. There's plenty of chargers there. And then as you head east towards the Grand Canyon, or if you want to go south towards Phoenix, plenty of chargers for you on this road trip as well. So finally, I want to take a look at employee charging and EV etiquette. So the county knows that EVs are coming. That's part of our plan for our sustainability initiatives. And so we're trying to prepare for that. We did a site walk and audit of all the county buildings, and we considered things like existing infrastructure available power to the parking lots, the size of the fleet, the number of employees that work at that building, and any upcoming construction projects that might help reduce the costs of installing electric chargers. So based off that information, we've created a plan for prioritizing EV charging for both our fleet and county employees. That's still being finalized. So, we don't have exact numbers on which buildings are going to be getting how many chargers, but be on the lookout for those, though they're coming in the future. So with all these EV chargers coming to our buildings, we hope that when you come to work, if you forgot to charge your vehicle, that this is how you feel, a sense of relief, knowing that chargers are available. However, with more employees getting electric vehicles, we understand that there may be days where you feel like this instead, and you missed out on getting a charger that's available. So I want to talk a little bit about EV etiquette. This is still a really new topic. Like I've said, electric vehicles are in their infancy. They have completely different infrastructure from our gasoline vehicles. So this is all things we're learning along the way. But there are some tips to consider for EV etiquette. Limit your charging to 4 hours so that somebody else can get the charger after you. Remember to move your vehicle at your lunch or on your breaks. Don't unplug others unless you had been specifically told that that's okay to do so. Please don't unplug other people's cars. Consider starting a Microsoft Teams group where you can share if there's a charger available, if somebody moved their car, or maybe somebody's been parked all day and they need a reminder to move their car, you can share it all there. And finally, consider finding some EV buddies and share a charger. So maybe one person charges in the morning, the next person charges at lunchtime, and the third person charges in the afternoon. And finally, remember that in life and with EV chargers, sharing is caring. So please remember to only charge when needed and move your car so that others can use them. So to wrap up, transportation is a large polluter and greenhouse gas emitter. And again, it's our second largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions in the county. Sustainable transportation is part of both our county operations and community all-in sustainability plans. Electric vehicles are the path forward. That's what the market is deciding. But more importantly, you can save on energy costs and reduce your greenhouse gas emissions and pollution. EV range is always improving and chargers are available on all major roadways if you want to take a road trip. And be sure to practice EV etiquette. So thank you for joining me. Again, my name's Nicole and I'm working on the Clean Cities Coalition. You can scan this QR code for more information about that, or if you have any questions about sustainable transportation, my email can be found here.